Do you want to play a 90-turn Hearthstone game where your health is above 500?
No.
Welcome to GameGorgon. I'm Indigo.
I'm Krug.
And today we're going to be talking about a game that you probably have never heard of called Hearthstone.
What's Hearthstone?
I don't know. Anyways, so just, I believe last week, there was a Taiwanese Hearthstone tournament where both players ended up playing for the full 90-turn duration for an hour. That's just mind-boggling.
So for those of you that don't know, in competitive Hearthstone, there's a 90-turn limit on every match, split between both players, so that's 45 turns per player. And if you reach that point in a game, you both lose. That's kind of what the animation's like. You gonna be skilled enough in the editing to put the little explosion there?
No.
Okay, well, sucks.
So what we ended up seeing at this Taiwanese tournament is that two fatigue warrior decks fought each other. Well, and if you don't know what a fatigue warrior deck is, it's a deck where they're made to armor up and stay alive as long as possible and make their deck grow as long as possible.
Using a card called Dead Man's Hand. For those of you that don't know, Dead Man's Hand is a card in Hearthstone that allows you to put a copy of your hand into your deck. You can have two copies of Dead Man's Hand in your deck, and so if you have both of them in your hand and you play one, you get another copy of Dead Man's Hand in your deck, and then it repeats forever, and the game never ends, like we saw this time.
Well, and it's I mean, this is a personal thing. Is one of my favorite decks in
Mill Rogue.
Is Mill Rogue,
Yep.
Exactly. And this literally is just like perfect counter.
Yep.
So these two players played against each other, and one of them managed to get their armor above 500.
In like a legit game of Hearthstone.
Yeah, it wasn't like wild. It was a full-on tournament. They were using all of the rules, regulations, all of the things that they were supposed to do, and managed to get this 500 plus armor.
Yeah, it's insane. For those of you that haven't seen them before, there are kind of like videos on YouTube that show people doing kind of like unnatural Hearthstone combos that exist, but it doesn't really make any sense for them to appear in the wild because they require both players to cooperate, and that's not a thing that happens in competitive Hearthstone. This wasn't that. This was literally two people playing competitive Hearthstone with unnaturally high health pools and armor pools, and the fact that they can extend their hands out to 90 turns and their decks out to 90 turns is actually crazy.
Yeah, and normally when that happens, they both get a loss and they play again. And they do that because when you play a second time, it's very rare that you get a second draw, because the fact that going 90 turns is rare in the first place.
Yeah.
That going and doing that twice
in a row with the same opponent, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Is nearly impossible.
Except for this deck.
Yeah.
Because that's literally the whole point of this deck, is to prolong games.
Yeah, and so how they ended up getting the winner is based off of who had the most amount of health left. So the gentleman with the
500 armor
plus armor.
He won,
Yeah.
believe it or not. And for what it's worth, they decided this before the game, and they let both players know, and they didn't really have any issues. It seemed like, you know, a totally above the board, fair thing. It wasn't last minute or anything like that. And I think it was a good call, right?
Yeah. So PC Gamer actually got in touch with a spokesperson from Hearthstone, asked them, hey, are you going to, one, have you seen this? Two, are you going to do anything about it? And three, like, are you going to create a card that's going to counter this style deck? And they said, well, yes, we saw this. It is working the way it's supposed to right now, but, you know, we see this and we're definitely going to make changes so that this isn't a thing. The main thing that they said that they were going to do was actually either nerfing a card or changing, like, the definition of a card so that this isn't a likely thing to happen. They said they would definitely not create a card or a system that would get rid of that or basically directly counter it, because they didn't feel that they like that style. Like, being
like
able to directly
designing
counter,
something specifically to counter something else just kind of makes the thing that is designed to be countered feel bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great design philosophy to not do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so they talked about that, and I appreciate that, because I gotta be honest, I like playing Hearthstone a lot and not having that, like, direct counter. Oh, well, I can't play, or I'm playing and I see a druid and they play a couple cards and go, oh, well, I'm screwed. I'm just gonna concede because I know that their deck is built to directly counter mine.
Yeah.
And that's not fun to play.
Yeah. This could be something that's easily fixed too. For example, Dead Man's Hand starts copying your whole hand, and then it decrements down 1 for the next one that's in your deck, and then it decrements down 1 again to 5, 4, 3.
Or they can make it a legendary card.
Or they can make it a
that
legendary
you can
card
only
that
have
you can
one.
only have one of. But I think that sort of nerfs it too hard.
Does it though? What do you guys think? What is the best way for them to nerf this deck? Like, how should they change Dead Man's Hand? Or do you think it's something completely different than changing that one card? Let us know down in the comments. And also, while you're at it, why don't you hit that subscribe button? Maybe that like button. Maybe interact with the community. That being said, my name's Indigo.
I'm Krug.
And we're GameGorgon.